Okay, let's talk sculpture briefly. There are really only a few things that I wanted to discuss about sculpture. The rest of it you could probably get through the PowerPoint and the reading. Sculpture can be made with everything, anything. The only thing sculpture must do is exist in three-dimensional space. It doesn't have to last forever, it doesn't have to be beautiful, it can be made with anything. It can be anything at all. But it must exist in three-dimensional space. Freestanding simply means that you can walk all the way around the sculpture and view it from 360 degrees. Like this piece here. There are two different types of basic sculpture methods, additive and subtractive. When you subtract material away, like in carving in like stone or wood, that's a subtractive sculpture method. If you're adding clay or paper mache or plaster onto stuff, that's an additive method. It's pretty straightforward. Michelangelo was a master carver of marble. This would be considered an additive method, modeling. This is actually completely hollow inside, and it's done using the coiling method that we discussed during craft. And it's actually got the remains of this married couple from pre-early Rome, the Etruscans. Casting is considered an additive method, and if you've ever cast ice cubes in an ice cube tray, you've cast. This race warrior was created using the lost wax casting method. You'll find the handout in the craft section that it says Raku Lost Wax. This is lost wax casting. You're going to want to know these 7 steps. Here's the basic idea. The first step. To do this, you're casting in basically bronze or aluminum or some sort of metal usually. To do this, you start with building an armature, which is a support system. Anything to get the weight out. And a support system is made with chicken wire, styrofoam, wood, whatever. That's step number 1. Number 2 is you sculpt the entire piece in clay. Put all the details in, make it all finished and lovely over the top of that armature. Number 3, you cover the entire piece with a 1/2 inch approximately of melted wax and let that harden. Step number 4, you cover the entire thing, wax and all, in whatever you're making the mold out of. That's M-O-L-D, mold, the mold making material. It can be crushed up sand, debris, it could be plaster, it could be polyurethane, it could be all kinds of things, anything to make the mold. Think of it as your plastic tray that you're casting your ice cubes in. That's the mold, is that plastic tray. That's step number 4. After you've drilled some holes throughout the piece, you put it in a kiln. That's K-I-L-N, a kiln, a very large one, and you heat the piece. And what happens is the wax melts and it is released and literally runs out of the holes in the bottom of the piece. So what's left between the clay and the mold is just an empty air pocket where the wax used to be. Which leads us to step number 6. You pour hot molten metal into those holes in the top of the piece, and that takes the place of where the wax was. See, hence lost wax casting. So the bronze or the metal is poured in to that. You wait for it to harden and cool. Then you break away in step number 7, the mold, and you finish the piece by welding it, cleaning it, taking up off, cleaning all the debris off and getting it all beautified. That's how the Race Warrior was created. You may watch this 3-minute video and it's showing you the exact steps of how this happens. Okay, you're going to watch a sculpture being created. Light and kinetic sculpture, that's sculpture with light, or sculpture that moves. This piece will be on your Unit 2 study guide. It's part of the Bauhaus. Remember Le Corbusier and the Villa Savoy house? This sculptor worked as part of that group. He was part of that group of Bauhaus artists and architects. He's interested in the beauty of the machine and using modern materials, but this is called the light prop for an electric stage. But guess what? This was actually never meant to be seen by the public. This actually was meant to be a character in a movie. The first YouTube you see on the slide is the way you're going to see the sculpture in the museum today, which frankly, when Maholy Nagy saw it for the first time being displayed in a museum without his consent, he destroyed it, and the museum made him recreate it, because he really never expected the public to see this clanging collection of instruments shown this way. It was really meant to be the character in the film, which is the second YouTube you see on this slide. The movie is called Black, White, Gray. It is a Bauhaus film meant to be an experiment with the new modern media of film. Film in 1929 was still relatively in its infancy. And he was exploring with how far that modern material, the media of film, could be pushed visually. So really it's an art for art's sake film that's looking at contrast, movement, values, black, white, gray, obviously, shape, geometric patterns, all of those kind of formal elements, okay? You're going to need to watch both of these YouTubes to be prepared for an examination on this, okay?